And I'm Miss Loda, and I just wanted to go over the History GCSE with you just so you can make an informed choice when you pick your options. So at Clapton we do the AQA exam board. That's broken down into 2 exam papers, and each of those exam papers has 2 topics. So you do 4 topics in total across the span of the 2-year course. So paper 1 looks at Germany and the Cold War. Paper 2 looks at Power and the People and Elizabethan England. And I'll just break down what those topics are for you now. So we break it down so that in year 10 and year 11 you do part of paper 1 and part of paper 2. Because paper 1 is heavily modern history, we want to break that up into the 2 years so that you've got a bit of more of a mix. So in year 10 we start with Germany. So it's Germany from democracy to dictatorship. So we look at the beginning of Germany of 1890, the monarchy leading into World War I. We look at the consequences of World War I and moving into the golden years of democracy in Germany. And then alongside that we look at the rise of Hitler and the Nazis, and then what it looks like in Nazi Germany for people. So we look at education, we look at women, we look at racial discrimination, we look at religion, all of the things that Hitler and the Nazis change in Germany. The second topic that we do in year 10 is called Power and the People. This is focused on how Britain goes from an absolute monarchy in the Middle Ages to the democracy that we have at present day. So we look at all of the different groups of people and activists that try to change the system. It starts with things like the Magna Carta, we go on to the English Civil War, and then in the 20th century we look at how protest and in some cases riots, for example Notting Hill, are forcing the government to change their ways and think about the equality and the rights of the people. So that's what we do in year 10. When it comes to year 11, again, because we do a mix, we start with the modern part of the course, which is conflict and tension. So this is looking at how the Cold War begins in 1945. It's quite useful. It sort of carries over from Nazi Germany. We look at the events of the Cold War, such as the dropping of the atomic bomb. We do a debate about that. We look at the Berlin Wall, things like the Vietnam War as well. So we kind of span Europe and Asia when it comes to the Cold War. And then our final topic is Elizabethan England. So within this, we look at Elizabeth's later reign, which includes her politics and religious policy. And we also look about her efforts to adapt society, the way that education changes, the fashion, the architecture and the entertainment, things like the Globe Theatre. This could be useful in working alongside English. So the reason that I think you should consider picking history is I'm sure you've heard from your previous videos that it's a facilitating subject. So EBacc subjects help you in a multitude of options moving forward. So what A levels you want to do, what apprenticeships you might go into, or what degrees you might do at university. So the things that you take away from doing history, the skills that you can apply to all sorts of different subjects, are things like analysis of evidence. We do that across all 4 topics, and it's something that you can obviously work alongside English because of the analysis of texts. You do critical thinking and problem solving using that evidence and thinking about the questions you get asked in the exam paper. We do debating, and that's a good way again of sort of thinking about your presentation skills, your speaking skills, your social skills in working in teams. Obviously a lot of what we do in history can be quite sensitive, so the topic of thinking about empathy when we think about Nazi Germany and racial policy, for example. And one of the key things is research, which could be useful for many things in the future. So some of the key careers that you might think about that link to history are some of the more obvious ones maybe. So law, journalism, archaeologist, museum curator and teaching. But some of the ones that you might not necessarily think about, so costume design. So especially with Elizabethan England, the more you learn about the time period, if you want to go into fashion design or costume design for TV, theatre and film, politics and marketing. So even things like social media. So again, being able to convey your points of view, convey your evidence, show that you've put in the research and speak to groups of people is going to be really valuable. So some of the key individuals I've selected that have done history degrees, so obviously gone beyond the GCSE, are in a multitude of fields. So Sacha Baron Cohen is an actor, Diane Abbott, obviously local politician for the Labour Party. We've got Louise Theroux, who is a documentary maker and journalist, and this is Chris Hughes, who is the co-founder of Facebook. So you can see that it goes into a multitude of different careers. History has adapted the Key Stage 3 curriculum, so there are some topics that you will have already been introduced to in year 7, 8 and 9, and also we've introduced some of the similar exam style questions. So when you come to do GCSE in year 10. It won't be a shock to the system. We've introduced you to what questions look like already because we've started integrating them into your assessment. If you have any questions, you can always ask. Okay, good luck.